Film has been a staple of cinema for over 100 years. It keeps a record of history, family, and stories of worlds that we haven't seen. Now in the era of streaming and digital cameras, film hasn't been as present as it was before. Yet, people still gravitate towards how films looked back then. Is it nostalgia, or are we just trying to replicate looks that left a mark on us in iconic films? While I do think some characteristics of film make any sort of footage attractive, like how the highlights look in this scene, or how the colors of this scene pop out a lot more, it seems like many people are hanging on to film on its last breath before it eventually becomes obsolete. But if you can emulate film on digital footage, can it really give that same feeling as if it was shot on film? A couple months ago, the team from Dehancer contacted me about a chance to review one of their very popular plugins, their film emulation plugin. They specifically asked for an honest review, so everything said here are my genuine thoughts and experiences. As a disclaimer, I'm not a professional colorist, but I have incorporated a color management workflow in Davinci into my video editing career, so all my experiences is coming from someone who's learning color grading professionally. Now, if you already started on Davinci, you probably have an idea of how Davinci Resolve's node tree system works. With Dehancer plugin, it acts as a OFX, where you would add the plugin onto a single node. Now, in the manual, they already provided you a sort of standard node tree and where they would recommend to put this Dehancer node. And they would recommend it right after the color adjustments and the CSTs, which would be the color space transforms. This is where you would set your input in the plugin to your timeline workflow would be, which could be Rec 709, which could be DaVinci Wide Gamut. So any of that would work. Or if you decide that you don't have any color adjustments before, you can do an input of any of the camera profiles that they provide. They include a lot of cameras here. Now, if you want to apply this Dehancer node to multiple clips, there's a lot of ways to do it. You can copy and paste to multiple clips. You can set an adjustment layer, or you can set certain groups with certain Dehancer nodes in the post clip, or you can do it in the timeline node tree area. In the manual, the Dehancer recommends to start with Dehancer first by picking your profiles and setting all the adjustments and customizations you want first, and then going into your color adjustments, your grading. But I personally find it easier to do the workflow from left to right, personally, because since I work in log, I like to kind of balance out the footage before getting into the specific color look. It's sort of like customizing a LUT towards the end for me, and then sort of picking the right profile for what it looks like, and then adjusting it a little bit towards the end. But yeah, it's all up to you to trial and error to find what works best. In the plugin itself, the bread and butter in this plugin is the film profiles. They provide you 60 plus profiles to choose from, all from different brands, and all are designed for different lighting conditions. The push-pull slider adjusts the contrast, the brightness, as well as the color contrast. So adjusting these sliders will in fact change the look of each profile depending on the type of film that profile is designed for. My current favorites are the Kodak Vision 3 profiles, as well as some of the Fujifilm profiles. And there's actually some other ones like the Afgha color that are really nice under natural colors. Once you decide on a film profile, you can elevate the look by including a print on top, which is the final step in most analog production. Some of the prints they provide to you are the Kodak 2383 or Fujifilm. These are modern movie stocks that really turn the footage into something really cool. The Kodak Endura gloss paper is less intensive, but also elevates natural colors really well, and is also my personal favorite. For the linear profile, it works under positive films, if you know which profile is positive or negative. So once you apply a film profile, you may notice that the contrast has been cranked up, or there's a certain color tint to the profile. This could be adjusted in the input settings, where you could adjust the color temperature to sort of narrow down a look that looks suitable to your current footage. Or if it's too contrasted, you can adjust your black point and your white point in the expand menu. Now, to narrow down the look, you can also use the film developer and the film compressor. The developer has all these sliders to hone in the very details of the film look, as well as the compressor, which really compresses the highlights to something more timid and subtle. With the film grain, we get to see how baked in the grain profiles are, as well as all the customizations of the sizes, the number. If we compare it to a grain overlay, we get to see the differences here. At a distance, I don't really see too much of it, but when you really look at the details, I personally see where the grain shines for Dehancer. In Dehancer, halation and bloom, they recommend to use as a tandem, where you would have both halation and bloom on at once. And of course, in Davinci Studio, they do provide their own halation and bloom effects. And you can make the comparison here to see how it looks to you. But I personally find that the Dehancer halation and bloom tools to be a softer look, but not as drastic in comparison to Davinci Studio. There's other neat features that they provide, which is the gate weave, the gate breath, the film damage. All will be very useful in particular scenarios. Dehancer also has a mobile app where it is also treated as a video and photo editor, and that includes all those tools that you find in the desktop plugin, and the results come out very similar. It all depends on the kind of workflow that you find yourself in. If you want to adjust it on your desktop, or if you're on the run, you can adjust it on your mobile phone. This app is also included on iPhone and iPad, and here's some before and afters. Let's talk about the pros and cons. So one of the pros I would say is that it's very easy and fast to use once you learn what each tool does. If I find like some footage that really works well under this profile, I just need to make like small adjustments to make it like more balanced and not overcranked. A look I find very desirable is already done. Once you nail that workflow, it really becomes sort of like second nature. Another pro would be that there's a lot of options to customize everything. There's literally every slider in existence to every single tool that you would find relevant in your color grading workflow. And since there's 60 plus profiles that you can try, there's so many ways to find something desirable. And I would say that's a pro, but also sort of a con, which I'll explain later. Another pro, which I sort of already mentioned already, but it produces amazing results, and also honestly beat my expectations, because I knew of the plugin before, and I've seen what it did to other people's footage. But when I seen what it did to my footage, it honestly brought it to a level that I didn't think it would be possible. And like whenever I think of film emulations, I'm thinking, oh, it's a very niche product where like film only has a vibe of vintage or nostalgia or very old. But you don't even have to commit to like heavy grain. You don't even have to do grain. You don't even have to do any of like the niche tools like in like the film damage or the gate weave. You don't have to do that. You can simply do it for the film profiles and just nail something that is pleasing to your eye and maybe pleasing to your clients too. And of course, another pro is that it works really well with all types of footage. I had the pleasure working with footage with Magic Raw, H.264s of different eras, and iPhone footage. And I find that the plugin works pretty well from the lowest to the highs of different kinds of codecs. Now let's get into the cons. So as I was saying before, since there's so many options to customize, it is very overwhelming to learn. Getting to trial and error all these tools, 60 plus profiles, and then each profile has a different effect on different lighting conditions in each footage. Like all those options, there's a lot to go through. I would say like anyone who's just learning and is just training their eye of what looks good to them, it would take them a long time to get used to it. And I find that as a con. Since there are a lot of film profiles, navigating through them is also difficult. Let's say I go through one specific clip and then I'm trying to find a profile that would match. There's a lot of profiles that are very similar to each other in these lighting conditions, and there's a lot of like profiles that are very niche. And like sometimes you don't even remember what the name of the profile was that was like bad or good, because like they have like very specific like codes and names to them. So if there was like a suggestion I would make in that case is if there was a way to favorite specific profiles or hide some of the niche profiles that I probably won't be using ever. Like there's a lot of black and white profiles. There's a lot of ones that they crank the blue to like 100, or they have profile where like there's a blue and purple one that's very, very, very niche, but I don't see myself using that profile. So if there's a way of just like specifically favoriting or hiding profiles, that would probably fix a lot of my issues with that. There's also the options for presets. Whenever you have a specific Dehancer setting that looks perfect for this footage and you want to apply it to something similar in the future, like you can set maybe like a power grade or set like a LUT for it. But I find like those options are not as flexible as it could be, because when you use it, like save it as a power grade, you're essentially taking the entire node tree, which keeps the color adjustments into the next footage, which you don't really want to keep those same like color like adjustments into like the next clip, right? You just want to save the Dehancer node. Then you go to the option of generating a LUT. But then when you generate a LUT, you can't customize that LUT anymore. You can't adjust the same like sliders as before. Well, then you would have the option of like, you just have to copy it, like the specific Dehancer node, and paste it into another project. It doesn't really work like that. So I don't know what the real solution of that would be. I feel like that's sort of like a limitation of Davinci as well. But if there's a way of saving the Dehancer setting somehow, instead of saving the entire node tree, I would be like open to hearing any solutions to that too. Now the next con, of course, we have to address the price. Now the price is $449 and I'm Canadian, so when I see US dollars, I'm thinking, oh, it's like probably 500 plus now. So for a plugin that's worth more than DaVinci Studio, I find that very hard to be convinced on paying for a price like that. And of course, I'm talking about the Dehancer plugin Pro version. Now there's also other versions like the Light, like the specific halation ones, or Bloom. There's a lot of different versions, but all of those I would personally say are a bit overpriced. And with those results that you can get with Dehancer, you can achieve with something in DaVinci Studio with the halation effects. You can make a comparison to film grain with a simple film grain layer. You can see the differences, of course, because Dehancer has quality tools. But can you really define that in a $500 price tag? Or sorry, $450 price tag? It's up to you, but I personally don't see it. Now the final question is, who is this for? So I would personally say that this is very desirable to someone who works professionally and someone who's probably an intermediate in color grading or video editing. And I think this is worth investing in if you are working in sort of like a video editing or video production environment, because then you would apply this to your future projects, and then you'd essentially be paying back or paying for the plugin with the projects that you end up using it with. Like someone with experience with color grading and video editing would have an easier time trial and erroring through all the tools and options that you can go through. It's also a time-saving tool too. But if you give this to someone like a hobbyist or a beginner that's only just learning like how the node tree works in DaVinci, or how these tools even like works, or they'll have a longer time just learning what profile would look good. And honestly, I would say it's more worth it to invest in more time learning about color grading before you invest yourself into plugins that are very, very overpriced. And essentially, it could cause some bad habits, because I can see a world where someone would, just only need to just stick a Dehancer node on top and not do anything else, because they don't really need to, they feel like they don't need to learn anymore, which is not true, because there's so much more to learn when it comes to color management and color grading. You can learn from all these YouTubers online, Darren Moston, Cullen Kelly. There's a bunch of DaVinci tutorials that can teach you more than what a Dehancer node can give you as a crutch. Now, if you decide to go for this plugin after this review, Dehancer has provided me a discount code of 10% at checkout, which also helps me out as well. Now, I thank you for watching all the way to the end if you did, and I thank you for Dehancer for allowing me to try out a plugin that's always been on my eye for a while, but I just never committed to it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and peace.